Well, welcome everyone to today's webinar, and thank you for joining. My name is Dawn Van Dam, and I'm the General Manager of Cambridge Health Tech Associates. I'm very excited to have such a large audience attending today, and it looks like people are attending from all around the world. But for those of you who might have registered and are going to be listening to this via a recorded version, welcome as well, because I know sometimes people can't get up in the middle of the night to take a listen to a webinar. But I'm excited to be able to bring you this information today. We have a number of relationships with venture capitalists, and we also reached out to a number of other organizations who help finance companies, and we kind of surveyed them and collected their thoughts and included our own thoughts in this as well. So it should be a great opportunity to focus in on what can make you successful and capturing the attention of venture capitalists. So I'm looking forward to sharing this information with everyone today. And as you probably do know, at Cambridge Health Tech Associates, our goal is to help you transform your science into commercial success. So I think there's a nice partnership here between what we do and the people who can help fund what you do and help you move forward and be successful in the marketplace. So just a quick overview about us. We do three things. If you've checked out our website at chacorporate.com, we offer consulting. That would include things like helping you write a business plan, a marketing plan, helping you figure out your strategy and go-to-market activities. We're actually just completed a whole week of interviews across North America with a client who's come in from Asia. So that's one of the things that we really like to do, is kind of help people figure out how to launch themselves into a new market, whether it be something like North America or Europe or Asia on the other side. We also do lots and lots of market research, so whether that be qualitative market research or quantitative market research, you know, if you need the data behind it, the statistics, or if you need to see how the people think and how they process information and how they receive your technology and your science. We also, as you probably are aware, have a technology evaluation consortium where we bring together many, many pharmaceutical and biotech companies to have them evaluate in a real-time basis new technologies, and I'll share some data with you later about what they do in that as well. And then, of course, we do marketing and communications, so we're a full-service marketing and communications division in our organization, everything from websites to logos, et cetera, newsletters, press releases, media relations, all that sort of stuff. You probably also know that we are a sister company to Cambridge Health Tech Institute, who is a leader in life sciences educational conferences, been doing that for the last 20 years, and produces over 200 conferences every year all around the world. And in fact, we're having our first conference in just a month or so in China, in Shanghai. So if you don't know about that and you're interested in the Chinese market, I would definitely encourage you to check it out. But really, being a sister company to CHI provides us at CHA with an inside track to the key trends and issues in the industry, and gives us a real taste of what's going on there in the marketplace and how things change. We also, of course, in the whole life sciences and healthcare space, we have a database of over 900,000 individuals from around the world. So whether you're looking at the more life science space, focus on academia, government, labs, biotech, pharma, hospitals, venture capitalists, although venture capitalists apply to both sides, or if you're looking more at the healthcare space, hospitals, clinicians, allied healthcare professionals, et cetera. We have a deep understanding of all these markets and how they interact and how to motivate people to change their behavior to use more of your new science and your new technology. So we're really excited about the opportunity to share with you what the VC market thinks so that we can help you move that closer to being a reality for everyone today. So what I want to just talk about one unique opportunity is I'm going to discuss at the end of this webinar sort of a gift that we have for you if you're interested in participating in it. But the questions you need to ask yourself are the following. Do you have some great science, service, or tools in either life sciences or healthcare? Do you want more people to use your science? Are you already commercializing, or do you want to commercialize further, or you want to commercialize for the first time, so any stage of commercialization? Do you need some help along the way in doing that? Maybe you have some money, but you need more money now, or in the future you need some more money to fully commercialize your science. And you're willing to, most importantly, willing to invest some of your own time to learn and develop your plans. So I'm going to talk to you about a unique opportunity at the end to help you with all these points here. So I'm excited to be bringing that to you today as well. So just a little bit more about our consulting and market research. is really that data that we have from all those 900,000 people, and the fact that we know them so intimately and so well, and our expertise. We always bring a business person and a science person to any project at minimum. That helps us bring you great results and give you some solutions that will help you be optimized in the marketplace and be successful. I talked already a bit about our technology evaluations, but you're probably familiar with this book written by Jeffrey Moore called Crossing the Chasm. Oftentimes people get stuck and they can only get the innovators to try them out and use them, and they're unsure how to cross that chasm into the vast majority of people and get those people to use their technology as well. So we have lots of tools and techniques, including our Technology Evaluation Consortium, where we bring together the subject matter experts to help give you the feedback that you're looking for and give you the information that you need to be successful. And that, as I mentioned before, is our technology evaluation. That's actually been going on for about 10 years now, and it was created at the request of the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. They said, we need to become more efficient at evaluating new technologies. We're not seeing them in a comprehensive enough way, in a triaged way where we see the things that are really important to be seen. And so we're proud to say that we've been organizing and managing that for the last 10 years, having done now almost 30 technology evaluation projects in a collaborative consortium way, and it's been expanded in the last couple of years, which again, you can find out more about that on our website. So here's a little bit more information about it, but most importantly is that we help you produce the validation data with the industry to get them to actually roll up their sleeves and try it out and get some great information about your product or your science or your technology, and so that we can continue to advance and help people move forward in the industry. And really, it's a collaborative effort between the pharmaceutical industry. We do all the management of that, and yourself as a technology or science or service provider, and we make sure that you get lots of good feedback and help you be successful on your way to commercializing in the marketplace. I've touched as well on our marketing and communications efforts. And really what I just want to say here is really our approach to helping you be successful in the marketplace is that there's kind of a science behind marketing, but also when you're marketing science, it needs to be done in a particular way. And so we've really studied that way in how to be most successful so that you can outperform your competition no matter what you're offering. And it's really the science of how to get customers, how to keep customers, and how to get customers to buy, and then even most importantly, get them to refer you to other people, because that's the best endorsement. And we always combine that with what we call relationship-based marketing, so that you're building those relationships, because no one's going to buy something from you the first time they meet you. They need to understand you, they need to trust you, you need to build credibility with them, and so that's really, really very important, and we help you build that in your plan. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn to the topic of today, capturing the attention of venture capitalists. And as I said in the beginning, we talked to, in preparing this, we talked to some of the people that we've been working with closely in the let's call it the money community, and we also reached out to some other people to get their opinions and thoughts, and then as well gave you our thoughts on what we've seen is most successful in capturing the attention of venture capitalists in the marketplace. So I just want to say up front, though, that I'm using this term venture capitalist in a very generic way, and probably some people would not like that I do this, but it just makes it easier rather than going through this long laundry list all the time. But I'm talking about whether it be friends and family who help fund your company, angel investors, venture capitalists, private equity, or even buyers in a merger and acquisition deal. So anyone with money that you want to impress and you want to get them to invest in your organization is really what I mean by saying venture capitalist. So I'm just using it as a catch-all phrase there. And really, these people are different from your customers or your buyers, and therefore they really require some unique thinking about your messaging to them, because it really has to be different. You can't just say the same thing that you say to your customers, and if you do say some of the same stuff, you also have to say some different information. So as an example, I was talking to one organization yesterday who is looking to raise some money, and they had a really, really nice summary, but then when they shared their summary with me verbally, when they took me through it, they said at least two other things that which were highly, highly impactful, but they really didn't include them in their summary. So one was about the CEO themselves and how that person actually had previous experience, which was really very relevant, where they kind of had worded it previously like, I'm just like helping out a bunch of companies. So they really need to up the ante on the message they were communicating there. and the other one was more about their science, which we'll get into a little bit later. So you need to think about that. You have a different audience here than the people who are going to buy your technology or buy your science or buy your services. So the things that we said we would cover in today's webinar are just highlighted here. What are the pain points that you're solving in the marketplace? That's one of the most important things when you're trying to capture the attention of venture capitalists. The second thing we've listed here is, are you really all that different from the competition? And how can we make sure you're seen as different and therefore motivating to people who have the money to invest in you? And then looking at your message, what we call your elevator pitch or your USP or your unique selling proposition. Again, how can you make that stand out in the marketplace and make sure that you're getting the attention that you deserve? And then some ideas about how to demo or explain what you do. We'll cover that. And then the last point we're going to cover today is what we call action to traction. So, the proof is in the pudding, is how can you get some either real customers or almost customers or trial customers or even feedback from the marketplace that you can then use with your venture capitalist audience in order to get them to fund your ideas. So these are the topics that we'll cover today, and I'm going to hopefully zip through them and then have a chance for you to ask any questions at the end. So the first one, what are the pain points that you're solving? A pain point is exactly what it sounds like. It's usually something unpleasant for the prospective customer. It's usually something that they would like to avoid, but most importantly, it's something that they have the gumption or the desire or the wherewithal to want to fix. So sometimes some things in our life are unpleasant, but we just push them aside, and we're not really willing to take any action to make them better. So the key differentiator when you're thinking about your pain point is, does the potential person who's going to use your science or use your service or technology, do they actually want to take some action? And then if they want to take some action, how difficult is it going to be for them to take that action? So for instance, do you have to displace a current habit in the industry? Do you have to remove a current standard and get people to utilize your service instead? Do you have to convince the FDA to make you the new standard? So what is the pain that you're solving, and then what is it going to take for people to switch to you? And that's really the kind of question that you're trying to answer here, the pain point that you're trying to solve, and then what it's going to take to move people off the mark. So some people describe it as the moment at which a situation becomes so irritating that a person feels compelled to seek out a remedy. So for instance, someone might be saying, there's not enough people calling us, so let's do some marketing. So that could be a pain point that you're having right now, is that you don't have enough customers and there are not enough people calling you. But in R&D, maybe the cost in pharmaceutical or biotech companies, maybe their costs in the R&D area are just too high. And they're saying to themselves, let's look for some cost-saving options. And maybe that's one of the ways that you can position yourself, is that you can help them save some money. Or maybe if it's in the more the healthcare market, maybe someone is saying, I just can't figure out the correct or the most accurate diagnosis for a patient. I need a better diagnostic test. So the flip side of that example is, if you have a diagnostic test that's no better than anything on the market, and it costs more money and it takes more time, et cetera, then maybe there's not actually a market opportunity for what you have to offer. So you really need to be very harsh on yourself and think about, is this a pain point that people are willing to move on and that people are actually willing to do something about when you're thinking about what you can offer to the marketplace? So again, just to reinforce it even further, here's someone in the retail market who actually had some sort of pain and actually bought something and they're putting it into their car. But when you're thinking about your efforts to convince people to move in the marketplace, is they have to have a problem that they're trying to fix and that they're willing to leave behind or share with you some of their money, some of their their cash in order to fix that problem. So a way to look at that is sometimes people may have a pain point, but they actually didn't even know that that pain point existed. For example, did you know that you needed one device that could do all these things? It would include an alarm clock, a telephone, an email system, would tell you the weather, the stock prices, a compass, have a place to put your to-do list, address book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So did you know before the iPhone or the smartphone was created that you actually needed that? No, you didn't need it, but by having all those features in one place, you can certainly see from that long list that I had on the previous slide that this tool has displaced another a lot of things in your life. And, you know, when was the last time you actually bought a new alarm clock? Or have you ever bought, you know, a new phone to actually put in your house and hang up on the wall like we all used to do so long ago, or so recently, actually? So sometimes you can be solving things that people don't know that they need to have solved, but don't be sort of convincing yourselves that they're going to need it if you haven't actually gone out there and done any homework and kind of seen how you would put it all together and package it all together. So what happens is as you're trying to think about this question, some of the biggest mistakes that people make is that the creator of that new science decides that everyone will just need what they have created because they believe it is so great. And really what happens, which is the mistake that people make, is they forget to ask the end user what they really want and how this will become part of their life and how it will displace other things that they're currently doing or currently using. So if you haven't talked to any prospective customers in a while, or if you haven't talked to any friends of prospective customers, it might be something that you really would like to consider. Because sometimes we get too close to our science and we don't realize that actually no one wants it as much as we think that they want it, or maybe the price point that we need to sell it at is much more than they're willing to pay for that service. So a good example more in the consumer market is tons and tons of people say, oh, I have all this great weight loss stuff, or I have these, you know, great exercise program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you were trying to sell to this person here, the statistics say that the average obese person or man takes just 3.6 hours of vigorous exercise a year. So if you think you're going to be able to sell this guy here your new exercise equipment, he's probably not your target market. And so therefore, if you're assuming that you're going to sell all men your new exercise equipment, some of them are obese and they just don't exercise. And the same thing applies to women, of course, too. So it's, you know, you can't just assume that your market is the whole market out there. You're always going to be marketing to a subsegment of the market, and it's not going to be everyone who's interested in what you have to sell. Another way to look at that, I personally call it the baby syndrome, and that is, oh, it's my baby, it's my science. So thinking about a baby, I might be showing you an infant and they're saying, oh, isn't this baby so cute, it's so adorable and so terrific. Well, looking at this picture here, this baby isn't really so cute and so adorable and terrific, but I might be thinking that it is because it's my baby, it's my science. So in your case, you're thinking it's your science, you actually love it, you think it's terrific, you poured your whole heart into it, but it's not actually loved by everyone, and they're actually very happy with doing what they're doing right now. So you need to think about that, and you need to think about the difference between you and your team and those people who are going to be your eventual buyers. And don't get stuck in the baby syndrome just thinking because it's your baby that everyone's going to love it just as much as you do. So another way to look at that is, if you were trying to sell something to this polar bear, he does really kind of look like he's tired and he's having trouble getting up. And he's saying in this poster at least that coffee, I need coffee. Well, there's probably zero chance that coffee is going to be what he actually wants, and probably zero chance that you're going to be able to sell him a cup of coffee. So you need to ask yourself, what is the burning need that my science solves? The customers, who are the customers that are most likely to convert and have a pain that they need to alleviate, and the pain that they need to alleviate now or in the next immediate future, not 10 years from now. So a customer's pain can be good if you can solve that pain point, and your science will therefore become sought after, and your products and services will sell well. So it's thinking about, again, I may have coffee, but is my target market the polar bear or is it someone else? So these may be kind of silly examples, but there's just different ways for you to approach thinking about who needs what you have, what's their pain, and will they actually part with their precious money in order to help move your business forward. So what are some examples in the various areas of the industry? So we know some pain points that the industry is having now. So in the R&D area, or the life sciences area of the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, we know they lack blockbuster drugs. So can you help them with that? We know that the pipeline of drug candidates, there's a lot of them that don't make it to the end, that too many fail. So can you help them get to the point where they can eliminate some of those drug candidates earlier, or make decisions on a more assured basis? Can you help them be smarter? Can you provide them with more accurate and reliable methods to create and choose the compounds that will be successful? So these are just some of the things that you could think about that you might be solving as pain points in the R&D and in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. Another area to consider would be diagnostics. So for instance, do you have the ability to more definitively diagnose some conditions And does the patient have, for instance, schizophrenia or bipolar disease? And in that case, which medication would be best for them? So can you help diagnose that sort of information and help them move forward? I think I may need a little help moving the slides here, but I'm not really sure. So if you can't see this next one, I'm going to ask my colleague to move the slides forward. So I'm now talking about the medical devices industry. Is there a compelling clinical need here in a large enough market with payers who are willing to pay for this technology? A good example, just again to go to the consumer market because it's sometimes easier, is the pedometer. It's used to measure the number of steps that you take. It's a great idea, but there's not much interest from insurance companies to pay for this sort of quote-unquote medical device. And in fact, I did a quick retail survey, and you can buy a pedometer today from anywhere from 60 cents to $99.95 retail. So again, thinking about what you have to offer, it's probably not a pedometer, but whatever you have to offer, again, do you have a market? Are the payers willing to pay for it? Is it already, consumerized, and therefore you should move forward from this point? So it's one of those things to think about in order to figure out whether or not you're going to be successful. So that's the first section that I said I would cover today. The next section that I said I would cover is, are you really all that different from the competition? And again, this is where you have to take a hard look at yourself, not just in the mirror, but reflect what you have to offer versus your competition and versus what people are doing now. Because your competition you may think is a direct company who does the same thing you do, but really you're always displacing some other behavior in this world. So when the people, at Ford, Henry Ford came out with the first car, it wasn't like he said, wow, everybody needs a car, and it's something that they never even used or tried before. Well, they were doing something before, and so therefore a lot of people called it the horseless carriage, right? So it was a carriage that in the past, the engine was the horse, which you had to feed and you had to take care of, et cetera, et cetera. Now you had to feed the car with fuel, but a much different maintenance program here. If you can find what you're going to displace and compare yourself to it and then see how you're better than it, that's another way to consider yourself versus the competition. So an interesting fact here is when thinking about whether or not you're really going to be able to stand out from the competition. So Bain & Company, they asked company executives, they did a survey, if they agreed with the statement. So, do you agree as the president of your company that our company is highly differentiated, that we definitely stand out from the crowd? Well, 80% of the people surveyed said yes, I think my organization is highly differentiated. Well, when they asked their customers, only 8% of customers agreed. So this is what we call confirmation bias in action, and it causes company executives to overlook the very foundation of a prosperous, profitable firm, and that is sort of the same thing I was mentioning before about the baby syndrome, is you think what you have to offer everyone's going to want, and you think you're totally differentiated, but oftentimes you're not. So when you're thinking about that and thinking about how you're different from the competition, ask yourself, do I have a clear strategy? Do I have features and benefits which customers really truly need? And do I have a differentiated position in the marketplace? Am I unique? And those will give you all reasons for venture capitalists to invest. They want to know that you're not, the 20th, thing for high blood pressure, that, you're actually you're very different from the other high blood pressure medications. So it's really important to think about is what are the areas that you can be differentiated in and what are the areas that you are differentiated in. So the question is, do you stand out in the market? And if you don't believe you stand out in the market, you're not going to be able to convince anyone else that you stand out in the market. So again, I was talking to someone recently, and they were saying, this person was the business development person. They said, every time I go on a call and I bring my scientists with me, my scientists basically unsell all my efforts. And what was happening was the salesperson or the business development person is standing up there saying how, we're different, we're better, we're unique in the marketplace. And then the scientists would kind of get up there and say, well, we kind of are different, but, we might not be in some of these areas. So the scientists themselves weren't convinced that they were different than, than anybody else in the marketplace. So you can imagine they would be leaving appointments and lacking credibility, because who's the most credible person in the audience? It's going to be the scientist, and if the scientist doesn't believe themselves that they're better than everybody else in the market, you might as well not even have set up that appointment. So think about your whole team and think about whether your whole team is ready to hit the marketplace, and if not, maybe you need to do some work with them, and maybe you need to bring in, someone like ourselves even, or anybody, and just say, how can we make sure that everybody is on the same page on what is different about us and how we're better than the competition. So one of the questions I asked in the invitation to this event was, think about it. In your next 30 minutes with someone with money, with a venture capitalist, that could mean the difference between money in the bank and your idea sort of dying on the vine. And are you really, truly prepared for this eventuality? So is your team ready to get your message across succinctly in 30 minutes? And then what if you only have 15 minutes? What would you cut out and what would you still say? And even more importantly, what if you only have 30 seconds to make a great impression? What are you going to say in those 30 seconds? So if you haven't gone through these exercises with your team, you're probably not ready to wow and impress and make a major difference in front of someone who's going to invest in you, whether that be 1 million, 20 million, or 100 million. So as I mentioned again in the email inviting you to this session, I know one group who I'm very close with that actually only asks one question that they feel really, really matters. And if you can't answer that question properly, actually in their mind, you're done. It's over, finito, you're finished. But, of course, they're polite enough to let you continue, but you don't even know that they've already made up their mind because you blew it on the most important question. Well, it may not be the first question they asked you, but it was definitely the most important question. So you're probably sitting there at the edge of your seat trying to wonder what it is, but I really have told you the answer already. Because what that question is how are you unique? How are you differentiated in the marketplace, and how do you compare to the current competition, whether it be an equal to you or someone you're displacing, or to your future competition? So if you can't answer this, how you stand out and how you're better, I'm not sure that type of light bulb is actually better, but some people think it is. But anyway, if you can't explain in a meaningful, differentiated way that you are better than the competition, you've lost the battle and you might as well go home. And that's really what it boils down to in those 15, 30 seconds that you're going to have, 15 minutes or 30 seconds, whatever it might be. So let's think about some ways where you can be differentiated, because sometimes we think that the only way to differentiate ourselves is through our science. Well, you could have some other sorts of product innovation. Traditionally, in this area, it's going to be science, so I'm not going to dwell a long time on that. But you could have some packaging differentiation. In the area, for instance, of genetic testing, do you require, a blood sample, a swab sample, a saliva sample, etc.? That's not really packaging, it's more probably delivery and sampling technology. But you get the idea. Can you offer something that might not be the end promise, but might be part of the promise? Could you pursue some market niches, especially in some unsophisticated areas? So maybe your competition hasn't done well in certain areas, and maybe you could just go in there. I call it the thin edge of the wedge strategy. That you're never going to get in being everything to everybody. So go for a small piece of the marketplace and then grow it from there. So can you start where no one's excelling, and maybe that can be your place to excel, and then grow from that perspective? Could you offer increased service? I once worked at a lab, and I was actually the chief marketing officer there. And the real point of difference is we would spend whatever time it took to make sure that you understood what was happening with your science. We had tons of PhDs on staff. We were basically an academic laboratory that was selling also commercial services. So really, in the end, we showed people that we cared enough about them to spend the time. Sure, maybe they paid a few pennies more on this test for it, but whenever they needed us, we were there to help them. Can you figure out what you can guarantee? And it doesn't have to be necessarily a direct monetary guarantee, but what is the promise that you're offering? What are you guaranteeing? That you'll keep working harder and harder to solve this problem? Or maybe that's not how you work. Maybe you just want to deliver them the answer and move on. So again, think about that sort of information. Maybe you're going to partner with some complementary product or service providers. So I was talking to one person in a category recently that's all about R&D and drug discovery. And they took their technology and then they in-licensed some other, I think 2 or 3 other technologies, and basically now they have a suite of offerings that still offers one basic thing, but it's so far differentiated than anyone else in the marketplace. They just rise above the competition because of that. So it doesn't always have to be homegrown. It could be partnered with other organizations. And then who knows, what are your hidden assets? What are the things you have in your people, in your science, in your knowledge, in your know-how, in your processes, in anything that you do that maybe is really important to the customer or to a potential client, but you just haven't found that out yet. So that's sort of another opportunity for you to think about. So The next area that I said I would cover today is your message, or what we call your elevator pitch, or your unique selling proposition. So I'm going to give you some definitions first. So your message is not what we do. So it's not, I can, offer you a car. It's what's in it for me. So how am I going to get there from point A to point B? Am I going to get there in a sporty vehicle? Am I going to get there in an SUV that can carry all my sports equipment? Am I going to be in a vehicle that has, seats in the back for my 10 kids and lets them watch a movie while they're driving? No, I don't have 10 kids, but anyway. So those are some of the things that you need to think about. It's what's in it for me, meaning the customer, not what's in it for you, as in what are your features. It's also called the difference between your features and your benefits. The second thing to think about is your elevator pitch. So really that's the quick, succinct summation of what your company makes or does that, again, is relevant to the potential buyer and solves their pain point and provides them a benefit. So to summarize all this, the unique selling proposition is the factor or consideration presented by a seller, so presented by you, as the reason that one product or service is different from and better than that of the competition. So you could go back through the list I showed you a minute ago, and you could think about all those things and how they apply to you. Or you could even take it to a totally different area and start to blue sky and brainstorm. So I wanted to give you some consumer examples again for you to have you think about how you might think about this for your market. So as an example, Charles Revson, the founder of Revlon, he always used to say he sold hope, not makeup, right? So the hope that I could be more beautiful tomorrow than I am today by using his products. We know that some airlines sell friendly service while others sell on-time service. So they're not talking about getting you in an airplane and that you're going to be squished because, but maybe the luxury ones talk to you about the fact that, that they're not squishing you. So, I mean, that's their point of difference, right? Neiman Marcus sells luxury, Walmart sells bargains, Disney makes people happy. So what are the end benefits of what you provide? How are you going to help solve either the spoken or unspoken needs of your customers? I mean, I look at my smartphone and I say, I have now my alarm clock that I take with me everywhere, my address book that I take with me everywhere, and my communication mechanism that helps me get in touch with my family and business people all at the same time. So it's really providing me with a lot of benefits that I didn't have, just not too long ago. So in figuring this out, and figuring out your unique selling proposition, there's kind of 3 steps, and I've been talking a lot about this, but this is how people who talk about the unique selling proposition, how they cover it off, is first of all, again, put yourself in your customer's shoes. Know what motivates your customer's behavior, and most importantly, their buying decisions. One important thing to think about there, particularly in the area of science, because we're talking about human lives, and we're talking about healthcare, and people, the difference between being well and being sick and getting better and not getting better. It's often a very conservative environment. So you have to think about not just the person who says that they are the buyer in that organization. You have to think about their colleagues. You have to think about their boss, maybe even their boss's boss. You have to think about the people who report to them, their employees. How will it change everybody's life inside that organization, not just the ultimate person who you think is the buyer? And that's what makes it quite a bit more difficult to sell in life sciences and healthcare, is there's not just one person who's buying. When I go to the store and I buy a new pen, I don't have to get anybody's approval as to whether or not that pen is good for them, because I'm going to be the one using it. But if I'm going to buy a new machine to be used either in a doctor's office or in a hospital or in a lab or in a pharmaceutical company or biotech company or in the government, et cetera, it's not just one person. So it's really a multifactorial process that you need to go through to understand why the customer and the prospective customer group will buy your product instead of the competitors. And really the most important thing is to be brutally, brutally honest with yourself. Because if you can't find a way that was truly motivating, believe me, again, the customer isn't going to find a way to purchase your product. So moving on to the next section that I said I would talk about is ideas about demoing and explaining what you do. For those of you who may have watched the Oscars this past weekend, we can take so many lessons from them. In the movie industry, They talk about making things compelling, exciting, and memorable. And really, that's what you need to do too. If you're not compelling, exciting, and memorable, if the people don't remember you and they've now gone through 10 pitches today, how are you going to have a hope in the world of them potentially, choosing you to invest money in? So you have to hook an investor early, you have to hook them with your energy, and you have to hook them with the vision for your science. And remember, when I say the vision for your science, it's not just technically what you do, but how you're going to change things in the marketplace and how you're going to make, improve things and make them better. So you want to keep them wanting more, and importantly, you want to keep them on the edge of their seats. So if you're droning on, if you're monotonous, if you can't really communicate at the top of your game, find someone else in your team to make the presentation. Because in the end, if you're not going to do a great service to your company by making that pitch, let someone else make that pitch for you. Or join Toastmasters and learn, or get lots of experience in coaching on how to do that. It's also extremely important to use your voice and use your body when presenting. If you're not excited, how are you going to get the audience to be excited? So you have to be excited to convince them that they really, really want to spend their money that they're going to invest in your company. Make your presentations and demos personal. If you can somehow relate it to something that people can understand, I often call it using an analogy, talking about a person you've come across that you've helped, talking about your personal motivator, why you got into this and what made it relevant for you and will make it relevant for others. But the bottom line is you need to leave a lasting positive impression, and that's what will win you the Oscar of getting the money and getting the funding. So again, if you didn't watch the Oscars on Sunday, you might want to go watch some of it because it's a great inspiration for how to be impactful and how to be memorable. The other thing from a more technical perspective is scrutinize the effectiveness of your PowerPoint slides or your presentation materials. You really have to avoid what people often call the big deck click-through. If you have 100 slides, no one's going to sit through 100 slides. Really, you should try very, very hard to keep it short. No more than 15 slides. You can have 100 slides as backup if you think you need them, but if you can't get it down to 15 slides, you're not going to get done in 30 minutes. And when you're thinking about a summary plan that you're going to send as a pre-information to them, that should be no more than 2 pages to summarize your entire business plan. And again, if you can't capture their attention in the 2 pages, which is really either the 15 minutes or the 30-second pitch, again, you're not on the way to success. So when you're looking at it, you should script it. Oftentimes people say you should memorize it. Not that it should come across as scripted or memorized, but you should know what you're going to say, what you're going to talk about, how you're going to transition from one slide to the next, and how you're going to keep them motivated. So when you think about it, if we look at someone as Meryl Streep as an example, she has the highest number of acting nominations for a single person. She holds the record of 18. So, but she hasn't won the most, but she's held she's gotten in front of the audience of the Academy Awards and been voted on, been chosen as a finalist 18 times. So you want to get to the final round like Meryl Streep, but you also want to get to the winning round and be chosen as the winner. So look at what people like this do. They don't just get up there and deliver their talk. They get into it, they live it, they breathe it. One of the things that makes Meryl Streep stand out from the crowd of all other actors and actresses is that she becomes that character when she does her films. So are you becoming the potential customer, the potential client? Are you believing in your heart that this is really going to make a difference to the world? If you will, then you'll have a better chance at making a difference to the venture capitalists. So the last thing that I said I would talk about today, and then I'll open it up for questions and remind you to do the survey at the end, is what we call from action to traction. And that is the investment community wants to see that you actually can make things happen. And as I said here, the proof is in the pudding. So, show them that you can actually make a difference. So can you show them any progress of yourself as a startup company? Do you have any customers? Do you have anyone who's sitting on your advisory board or your board of directors or your partners who kind of can add credence to you and say, wow, we believe in this company as well, so we see that there's a market opportunity for it. We understand that we've been able to attract the attention of you know, this person from this major institution who is an expert in his field, and they're an advisor to us because they know that we will be successful in this marketplace and that we'll be able to make a difference in our area of science and our area of the world. So the thing is, you have to show momentum and that you had gains, that you've had progress as the business grows. I know one company uses kind of like a milestone approach. You know, 4 years ago we did this, and then 3 years ago we did this. And so that progress over time, even if you don't have sales, can show that you've been able to convince the marketplace that there is a real need for what you want and that you're going to make a difference. So that, you know, direct customer response is the best. Do you have sales already? People, of course, who are going to give you more money to grow it more, that's their #1 thing that they're looking for, is show me some revenue. But if you don't have revenue, have you done any market research? Have you talked to any customers? Do you have any quotable quotes? Could you, actually reference the name of someone and the company that they work for? You know, would you be able to give an investor a potential reference that you could actually have them talk to, not just read about them? Have you done a market research survey, either some qualitative market research or some quantitative market research? Not just, hey, this is a billion-dollar marketplace, and right now, people are, using my competitor 10% of the time, but they're going to use me 90% of the time. So what real information do you have to show that you're going to make a difference in the marketplace? The other thing you can do is, have you had your product assessed? Have you actually had people try it out? Have you had them use it? Do you have either some, written testimonials, some video testimonials? Do you actually have, a summary report of what they think of it? Do you have any validation data? Have they actually tried it out and compared it to the competition and compared it to how they might use it? So these are all really important things. We did a survey last year in 2013 where we actually asked this question of the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. We asked about 96 people who are in a decision-making position in their organizations, and we said to them, what are the most important factors that you use when deciding to adopt a new technology? And you can see what they've listed here. So, things like availability of service providers, cost, but the 3 top things were the amount of time is going to take me to realize benefits in my organization. Then again, how difficult is it going to be to integrate this new technology into my existing systems, processes, or decision making? But the #1 thing was, have you validated your technology? And have I had a chance to validate your technology? Have I had a chance to use it in my organization or talk to other people who have used it in their organization in order to make sure that I really feel comfortable with it and I can convince my colleagues, I can convince my boss, I can convince my employees that they really, should be utilizing this new technology and that they should bring it on board. So a great piece of information for you to think about as you're moving forward. So this is very important. The higher the traction, the more investors are attracted to the organization. So consequently, if there's more investors attracted to your organization, then you have more funds that are available to help your business succeed. So it's kind of one of those circular things where you need to build up the pieces of traction in order to convince the people who might invest in you that you have what it takes to move forward. So I have a few more slides, and I can see I'm getting a couple of questions, and I encourage you to send in more, and then I'll start to answer the questions as well. So how can you create traction? Well, first of all, you should develop some specific goals on where do you want to create traction. So do you want to have some articles published? Do you want to have them published in maybe peer-reviewed journals, or do you want to have them published in, other types of places? Like, do you want to have them published in, some places on the internet, some other literature sources? Do you want to have a market assessment done, some market research, or actually try out your product and get you some validation data? Think about your partners. Who are your partners? Can they help endorse you? Do you have people on your advisory board or your board of directors who can also help lend credence and proof that you mean something to the marketplace? So even having that plan in place will show the potential investor that you can think through the market response and how and where the revenue will flow. And then what you need to do is think about how you're going to measure that traction. So what metrics will be used to define success? So even if you don't have sales today, think about how you will measure your success and your sales later when it comes along. and what measurements can you put in place for, do I have any customers who like me at all? Are they even interested in using me even though I'm not ready to be used today? So it's all these things that you can be a little bit more disciplined with and be ready to talk to an investor about, that will have them see that you're smart about your market and you've thought it through, and that you would be a good place to place their money because you're going to be diligent about your efforts as you go forward. So if you're still struggling with traction, again, in talking to some of the people that we've talked to or we work with, they say that there's many reasons that startups fail, but one of the most common is a lack of product or brand awareness. And so if you're doing what I would call a traction plan, you'll be thinking about how to get more awareness in the marketplace with your potential customers. But you also need to think about what are your advertising and marketing efforts. So, and oftentimes people call that, maybe investor relations, or they call it press releases and things like that. But you need to think about bringing people on board long before you're ready for them to actually become buyers. Because if you can bring them along in the process, then once you're ready for them to be buyers, they'll be more likely, because they will have helped you develop things along the way. And so really what it is doing your research, reaching out to people all along the way, and making sure that you're building that proof of the traction, and that will help you get further to your ultimate goal of success. So one more thing I want to share with you, and then I'll open it up to anyone who has any questions, is that really for me, this is a huge, huge passion, is not just to help people commercialize, but to help people be more successful in the marketplace, because I can't tell you how many companies I meet every week, every month, who are not getting the funding that they need because they can't get over this chasm of success. And I just think it's a horrible, horrible shame in the life sciences and healthcare industry that people aren't being more successful, and that's sort of one of my personal goals over the next while, let's call it the next 20 years if it has to be that long, but I hope not. And so therefore we're going to offer you a gift. And so if you remember, I showed you this slide earlier, and that if you have some great science but you're having some struggle in moving it forward, but most importantly, if you're willing to invest some time to work with us through some of these points, we're going to give you basically some free coaching and some free help to get you there. So we're going to choose a select group of people or companies or organizations, but in order to be chosen, we need you to do a few steps along the way. So what we need you to do is we need you to submit a summary of your current situation and what are your next steps in commercializing. So you tell us your story, basically, is what we want you to do. And then explain to us why you want to receive some special coaching and some help. Tell us if you need funding and what you need the funding for. It doesn't have to be really precise right now. I need $10 or I need $10 million. You probably need more than $10 though. And then we'll help coach you. And then as we feel that you're getting ready, we'll introduce you to some potential investors, because I'm sure it's pretty clear by now, our goal is to be your commercialization partner. So we know that a lot of people can't move forward in commercializing because they don't have the funds. So we're going to help you get ready to get those funds, and then our hope is that you'll work with us after the fact and let us be your commercialization partner and let us help you be successful in the marketplace. So if you haven't had a chance to write those down, you can always send me an email afterwards and I'll send those to you. But that's the offer and that's the gift that we're giving to you today. Because this was the promise of today's webinar, is that we're trying to help you capture the attention of venture capitalists by covering these various issues. If you don't remember everything we talked about today, there will be a copy of this recording afterwards to share with all of you. And we would appreciate, we're going to be doing actually a series of these sessions on different topics that are important to people who are trying to raise money. So in that survey that we put up a few minutes ago, if you could fill that out for us and tell us what you would like to see in future events, and if there isn't quite a spot for you to tell us everything, then feel free to send us an email, and we would certainly appreciate that feedback, because we have the access to these people with money, and we'd like to pick their brains and help you be more successful. So I'm going to turn to questions now. And then, as I said before, if you would like to submit an application to be considered for our coaching program, then again, there's my email and my phone number. And really, as I said, our goal is to help transform your science into commercial success and to make it be that not just the software people in the industry get all the venture capital funding, but that some life science and healthcare people get more of that funding in the marketplace. So again, I'll encourage people to send in questions, but I'm going to go to the top of the list and see what people have asked me and do my best to answer them. If I can't answer them today, then what I'll do is I'll come back to them on a future webinar or make sure that maybe they are the topic of a whole future webinar. So a question here is, how do you find the venture people to pitch to? Wow, there are so many thousands and thousands of organizations that you can pitch to. If you go back to the very beginning of my presentation, the easiest people to pitch to probably at first, even if they don't have any money, but just even to practice with, is your friends and family. After that, we have categories of people called angel investors. Then we have a new category that's popping up called the super angel investors, which are wealthy individuals and family funds and wealth offices. We like a lot of those nowadays because they tend to be a bit more flexible in what they would consider. So there's websites you can go to, just even Google venture organizations. But our hope is to help you prepare for that. And I know that there's people who will, help you understand the different organizations. But what I'm trying to do right now is reach out to those on your behalf and help line them up, and that way hopefully make it a little bit easier for you. But I can't promise anything, but there's tons of information out there on the internet about who to pitch to, and what I talked to you today was about how to pitch, so hopefully that was helpful. What else? Another question. Money goes to money and status quo. Something truly revolutionary is often discounted by venture capitalists in the beginning. Once successful, they all jump on the bandwagon. How do you get traction if you are truly unique? Well, hopefully I gave you some ideas on how to get traction. The best way to get traction is to start talking to a customer or potential customer before you actually need them to buy. Help them become part of your process. I actually call it co-opting them into the process. So think about who are your partners, and I don't mean financial partners, I mean just people who can partner with you to help you be successful. Who are your partners? Who is on your advisory board? Who are the people who are working for you for free or maybe not working for you for free? What connections do they have? Who's on your board of directors? So I think you can help yourself get traction by talking to all those people and having them help you understand things better. A lot of times maybe what you think is unique, the rest of the world does not think is unique. So those are some of the things to think about. Okay, here's another question. How do you bargain without giving up your company? Well, actually, that's probably very related to creating value in the marketplace. So if you are a Me Too product or service or science or technology, you're not going to be able to bargain well. You probably also need someone on your side to help you bargain with the venture capitalists. And so I know for me, what I'm trying to do is find people who will partner with you and help you get the best deal from the people with the money. So I would say never go to one of these organizations alone. Go with someone with experience because you want to put your best position forward. But if you have really done your homework and you have figured out how to be successful and how to make the customers want you, I think you'll actually be in a much better position to bargain with the people with money and get the best deals from that perspective. Is it important to obtain a provisional patent before seeking funding for a novel medical device or application? I couldn't say yes more strongly. If you think someone else does not have your idea in another part of the world at the same time that you have your idea, you're universally incorrect. So if you think your idea is patentable, do whatever you can to make sure it's patented before you start telling the world about it, or only tell the world about it in a way that doesn't give away the really big secrets and the really big information. It's really important to think about that. I met someone not too long ago, and basically he had driven about 2 hours to see me, and he said, I've created 3 things. One of them the university where I work owns, and the other 2 things I own. And I'm not a patent lawyer, so I said to him clearly, I'm not going to give you any advice, but just tell me a little bit more about the 2 things that you own and why you think you own the patent rights to them. And as he told me more and more of his story, he basically told me that he created those other 2 things in the exact same place with the exact same resources that he created the thing that the university owned. And I said, you know what, you urgently need to go talk to a patent lawyer because I think you don't own those two things. So be really, really careful what you share. Make sure you have an NDA, non-disclosure or confidentiality agreement in place, and do whatever you can to get the support that you need to get, you know, an understanding. Are you truly differentiated in the market, and do you need to get a patent? And if you do, do whatever you can to make that happen. There's often organizations who will help you do this. Again, you could probably Google and find organizations who will give you patent applying advice. As I said, I'm not a lawyer, so you know, anything I'm saying is just my opinion more than anything else. But if you think it's patentable, go check it out. How do you find the right balance between high-level description of the science versus going into detail? Really important to understand your audience. If you're going to a very sophisticated organization that has funded lots and lots of science before, and they have PhDs on staff, you need to make sure you're going to be ready to do a deep, deep dive into the science. If you're going to someone who's looking to diversify out of mining or out of entertainment or out of software into the area of life science and healthcare, like, you know, take an example, your family and friends. If you're going to go into a new area, you need to hook them first, and then you need to be able to convince them with the science later. So if you can't, you know, convince a high schooler, or if you can't convince a university graduate that you have a compelling idea, then you probably aren't going to be able to convince anyone else, because your science always comes later as the backup to support why the end user, the end customer, is going to want it. So think about that. I know a lot of people who can't simplify themselves, and a lot of what we do is help people, if you want to call it dumb it down, or if you want to call it simplify it, or you want to call it let it be motivating and resonating in the marketplace. Because if it's not motivating and resonating in the marketplace, you're going to be passed over and someone else is going to get funding rather than you. Okay, another question. When shall startups contact the VC? Should they do it before registering a business, or get a better understanding of how much and when the VC investment is needed? Again, I would say it doesn't hurt to get as much information and about this as you can all along the way, but it's also a time trade-off, right? So if you know someone who's done this before, pick their brain and learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can. But focus on what you have to offer and focus on how you're different in the marketplace. I can't repeat that enough. But also realize you have to a certain extent, learn the ropes. But I would never recommend to a scientist to go and relearn a whole other career, which is basically what you're talking about. In order to start up a company, to run a company, to fund a company, to do all those other things, that's a whole different set of skills. And so sometimes it may not be worth your while to, you know, teach yourself the science that you've taught yourself and become such an expert in, and then teach yourself the business of running a company. So maybe find a business partner. Maybe find someone else who can take on that piece of the company for you. The old saying is it's better to have 50% of something than 100% of nothing. And if you can't be successful by surrounding yourself with other people, then maybe you're holding it a little bit too close to the vest, so to speak. So again, share what you have, you know, and get people to help you with it, and you'll probably be 10 times more successful than if you try to do it all yourself. Someone has asked me if they can get a copy of the presentation. We will definitely be putting this up as a webinar and sharing it with everyone as a recording afterwards. And if you'd like to talk to us about that further, we would certainly love to chat with you about that further. Let's see, any more questions? How do we send your current situation, how do you send it to us for review? So just send it to me at that email address. I'll see if I can go back a couple slides. There it is. That's what we'd like to see from you. If you can send that information in, and then we'll consider bringing you into our special coaching program to help you get ready to talk to people. What else here? Yes, is this available for customers all around the world? So someone said for European customers, EU customers, absolutely. We right now have clients, customers that we work with in Asia, in Europe, in North America. Our database of 900,000 people is from all around the world. We have people who we know that are willing to invest from all around the world. So the world is a very small place nowadays. So please, don't feel limited by the boundaries of wherever you're sitting. Jump out and reach out to us. We would love to help you and help you be successful. Here's another question. How do you get around bureaucracy even if you have a great idea? I'm not really sure what bureaucracy you're talking about, but I'd say very clearly there's bureaucracy everywhere. And I have this poster on the wall in my office, and it's one of those ones where you have a nice picture and then you have something underneath it. And this is kind of one of those things I live my life by. What it is, it's a picture of the bottom of the Grand Canyon and a stream or a river going through that area of the Grand Canyon. So you don't really get the magnificence of the Grand Canyon, you get to just see the rock. But what it says there is perseverance. And it says, very much so underneath it, is in the confrontation between the stream and the rock, the stream always wins, not through strength, but through persistence and through perseverance. So talk to other creative people, talk to people who can help you see around it. That's what we're here to help you with. I love doing that. I love persevering and persisting and helping you be a success. And no, in order to coach you, to answer the question, we're not going to charge you for that. Our goal and our dream and our wish is to help you get the funding so that you can come back and work with us and we can be your commercialization partner. What is the size of potential revenue and its ratio to investment to get a VC interested, assuming you are really good at your unique selling proposition, etc.? You know what? You could want $100,000 and you could want $100 million, and there'll be different investors who will fund you for those different amount levels. So don't be shied off, or don't shy off based upon the amount you want. There's people out there who don't want to invest a lot, and there's people out there who do want to invest a lot. Just like you might be willing to buy a pen for 10 cents, or you might be willing to buy a pen for $1,000 if you have a really expensive budget and you want the best thing. At what stage in your presentation can you ask for money? Oh, you're talking about the presentation that you make to an investor. Well, they're not going to give you money based upon saying, I want $1 million and here's why. But you could be creative in when you ask for it, but you need to hook them. You need to get them motivated, and you need to make them want to give you money before you ask for the money would be the short way to answer that question. But some of these I think we'll include in a future presentation. So I think we're almost at the top of the hour. And I think I have answered most all of the questions. If not, we will definitely keep a record of these questions and have them be part of future webinars. And I really, really appreciate everybody's active participation today. I can tell by the questions that we've generated some interest and some thoughts. And I encourage you to contact us for further details and to potentially be part of our group of people that will help coach and help you be successful as we go forward. So with no further ado, if you wouldn't mind, I'd love you to fill out that survey. If it hasn't been put up already, I'll ask it to be put up again so that everyone can fill it out. And if you missed it, we will send out the survey along with the copy of this recording of the presentation so that you can give us some feedback on what you'd like to see in future presentations that we'll be giving in this area of helping life sciences and healthcare be more successful. I want us to overtake some of those other industries that are getting more of the money, and if we can be part of the catalyst for doing that, I'll be very, very happy person. So thanks for attending today, and I would encourage you to share this with your friends and other colleagues in a recorded version. And when we do our next one, which should be in about 4 to 6 weeks, tell more people that you think need to know about this sort of information, because I want to create a movement here for us to say to the people who issue these reports, like I was just reading one from PricewaterhouseCoopers last night that said that life sciences and healthcare is just not getting funded at the rate it should be. And I want 2014, 2015, and 2016 to be the turnaround time where we take over and we show the world that life sciences is a place to put their money. So again, thank you for your time and your participation, and we look forward to talking to you in the next event. Take care.